You're going to take minutes at the board and association meetings, your executive board and your association meetings. You don't always co-sign papers with the president, but that might be a job for you. You definitely handle PTA correspondence. So like you might have to put out reminders of the meeting, always provide the minutes at the next meeting. You maintain and preserve the records, the PTA records, any documents, anything that is relevant to your term, and you'll pass that on at the end of your term to the incoming secretary. So keep that in mind. Minutes are kept forever. So if always send an electronic version, they need to be approved anyway. And then again, I mentioned keeping just a physical record. I do that. I don't know if it's required anymore. So the best way to get started in your new role as secretary, best way to prepare any files you can get your hands on, any previous minutes, if you have a procedure book, just to better understand your new position, what it entails, maybe get a taste of how the meetings go. You may even recognize things that don't need to be in the minutes. We've already I just touched on briefly that really only action items need to be in the minutes. We don't ever need to add opinions or really even discussion. I will add if we're talking about an upcoming event, maybe who offered to do a certain job, we'll add that in the minutes, really just for more of a reminder. But the most important body of the minutes is who the minutes are pertaining to, the name of your PTA, the date those minutes were taken, the start and end time, those people who were present. Super important that you get that attendance list, and then who the presiding officer is. That's the prep. Materials, I mentioned the book. I keep them handy, really my book, because if somebody says, oh, wait, didn't we talk about that in February? I can go on our Google Drive and look them up pretty easy, but I also can just skim back 4 pages and it's right there. So just have your minutes available. In your PTA records, you should certainly have a copy of the bylaws, your school bylaws, the membership list. You need to know who are members. Anybody can come to a PTA meeting, and you want to encourage people to come to a PTA meeting, but those that are voting have to be PTA members. If you have a charter, rosters, any correspondence, just kind of keep that all handy. And I cannot promote this site enough. For the PTA procedure, specifically secretary procedures, all PTA policies, best practices, and definitely resources, check out our California State PTA website, which is CAPTA or capta.org. Denise did share that they are going to be upgrading their website, but honestly, that website has improved dramatically in the last couple years, and there are many, many resources for every position. But we're doing secretary for right now. But even if you're wondering what a chairman does, or our reflections program, or if you need to help a peer in PTA, share that resource, www.capta.org. They also have a leadership section where you'll be able to sign in and get even more resources, which is just tremendously beneficial. So please keep that that website handy, because I use that more than you could imagine. Uh, this is a quote from Walt Disney, so I it's one of my favorites, and I just take it with a grain of salt. But again, going back to kind of using that resource, you can talk to a lot of people, especially multiple people that have been in the role and any role, and everybody has a little bit different perspective. But sometimes it's worth taking all that information, but then just doing it yourself, checking it out. Go to the resource, just start just start your position with a positive attitude. You've got your book in front of you, you've got the description, and do it. It can you can always improve on the minutes. There's always corrections. There's always, every day it seems like, or every meeting, there's a little bit better way. So it is all good. You're a volunteer. We appreciate what you're doing, and just go with it because you're already heads above because you stepped up to take on the role. All right. So just so you know, there are 3 required officers for a PTA. There is the president, there is the treasurer, and there is a secretary. That's the criteria. All of the other ones are frosting on the cake, but those are the 3 required officers, and that they're the most important part in running a unit. The main task you'll hear over and over for the secretary is to really provide concise and complete minutes for the meetings. And concise, that's where the discussion doesn't pertain to the action. You want to keep it simple, concise, and just be thorough. So what was the action taken? What was the vote? If the motion was made and everybody voted for it and the motion carried, or even if the majority voted for it, that's the action that can be taken. The meeting details, very important. Not just important, but required. Every meeting minutes should have the name of your PTA, should have the date, the place, and the type of meeting, an association meeting or an executive board meeting. Always have the start time and end time. Always have an attendance list. Best way to do that is, well, if you're doing a Zoom meeting like this, make sure that you document those in attendance. If you're at the site and you're having a physical meeting, pass around a piece of binder paper and keep it out. So if anybody comes late, they'll be able to sign it. You don't want to rush that and put that away. Just keep it out. Let people know, hey, we're thrilled you're here. Yes, you came late. Welcome. Obviously, being on time is good, but being late is just as good because it allows everybody to participate and contribute. Um, when taking the minutes at a meeting, really the focus needs to be on noting. That's your opinions and your input matters, but what matters most for the secretary or whoever is taking the minutes is that they focus on what what action is taking place. So the actions taken by the group in the order that they took place, always super important. Who made that motion? So if Sally is making a motion to accept the um, or rectify the payments that were made for the carnival, you need to make sure that that's entered. Sally made the motion that we approve the monies for ice cream and the hot dogs and whatever for the carnival. And then there should be a second. And it says not what was said because the discussion doesn't have to be noted. but the specific motion or what is the request for, and then how it was voted on. That is what's important. And we'll all learn a better way of how to word it. There are examples, um, but just know that as long as it's very specific, a specific amount of money, the specific checks that were written, a specific day, those are the important action parts that you need to enter into the minutes. Um, what was the motion? Who made that motion? And what was the vote? What is done? So again, that no need to include discussion or personal opinion. Um, if there's discussion on, oh, well, why would we do that? Or, oh, well, this would be a much better time, or that really doesn't need to be entered in the minutes. It's more of a what that discussion, with that discussion, what was the action that was taken? Yeah, we agreed that it's going to be Saturday at 9 a.m., on the in the multipurpose room. So those kinds of things that are actual concise action items, that's what needs to be in the minutes. Um, part of the other business items that need to be in the continuing minutes is at every meeting, you approve the previous minutes. You approve them for a couple reasons. You want to make sure everything is accurate. You want to make sure names are spelled correctly. You want to make sure that that is really what everybody, I mean, that is saying that, yes, we approve those minutes. That is what happened at last month's meeting. Sometimes it helps to get the minutes out, maybe at least to your executive board, um, maybe at least a week or two, while it's still fresh in everybody's mind. So that way, when you put them for approval, most everybody will be like, yeah, that's a good summation of what happened. The minutes should also include a summary of the treasurer's report. At meetings, the treasurer provides a report. The secretary's job is to list what the treasurer presented and include that in the minutes as well. And that's kind of a checks and balances, especially with the treasurer, um, because it just clarifies what their report says. If there are any discrepancies, that many times that's a checks and balances. So very important that you include the treasurer's report. Any motions, we discussed that a little bit earlier. I make a motion that we ratify, or I make a motion that we approve these funds for whatever. The first person to make or the person that makes the motion is who needs to be listed in the minutes and what that motion is. Back to kind of the treasurer's report, the list of payments authorized and the expenses that are ratified, that needs to be in the minutes. And that means that as we're going over the treasurer's report, the treasurer will say, we need to authorize paying, and it's kind of a twofold. So a lot of times you have your budget and things are already expected payment wise. Maybe your website, maybe um, the funds for uh, PTA membership treats, back to school night. Maybe you guys decided to, and you put in your budget to spend, $150 on popsicles for back to school night. When you have that next meeting, that will be in the treasurer's report because those ice cream, they needed to be paid for, the popsicles. So it might be that it was already authorized in the budget, but now you're going to ratify that expense, which means everybody's now aware that it was $147 for those popsicles, and it was check number 1377. So in your secretary's report, it's going to say check number 1377 ratified for back to school night, popsicles at back to school night. And again, it's a checks and balances. So action taken, check number, um, uh, a lot of times now we're using electronic fund transfers. Any of those, they have to specifically be authorized and or ratified, what it was for and the amount and how it was paid. So a check number, an EFT, an ACH, however it was paid, it needs to be recognized and approved and ratified and put in the minutes. And then usually we'll do a quick, as a secretary, you'll do a quick summary of the chairman reports. So it might be Denise reported that the Scholastic Book Fair went very well. The library stated they made, $1,200 from that. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it shows you what you guys are doing as a site, as a unit, and it keeps it in the minutes so there's an ongoing, oh, this is being done, the carnival's coming up, the carnival went well, there was this much money earned. And you can also improve on that as you're reading the minutes. It might be the discussion for, oh, next time we do that, we might want to, not in the minutes, but I'm just saying by reading the minutes, it might generate some ideas for improvement. I mentioned corrections. So the minutes, the minutes from the previous meeting are presented for approval at the meeting. If there are corrections, name, spellings, maybe a dollar amount with the treasurer, maybe check numbers, if somebody catches those, and hopefully they will. Those are all things that can be corrected. And it's important to acknowledge those corrections. They also can be made at any subsequent meeting when an error is discovered. So just know that minutes are ongoing. So if last month's minutes, if I put check number 177 instead of 1377, maybe somebody would point that out and say, hey, it says 177. I thought it was 1377. We double check. Yep, sure enough. So now you can present the minutes with the corrections made for approval. And then make sure that those corrections are made to the minutes that you are maintaining for your records. If you're with maybe your executive board and you're looking at some previous minutes just to check over some notes and to see if something was paid and an error or discrepancy is caught, you can then present that to a subsequent meeting and make sure that those are corrected. And the reason we do that is because we can't ever, as a secretary or any individual, can't make correction. We can make a correction, but then that correction needs to be presented for approval because these approved minutes are a legal document because we're a 501c3, right? Because of the laws, we have to maintain minutes, and if there are corrections, which is absolutely fine, those corrections have to be approved as well. Only approved minutes are the legal binding document. Giving you time to write down some notes just in case, because I know this is a lot of info. To support what I just said. Minutes are a legal record of action for PTA as a nonprofit organization, and they are kept forever. So at the end of the term, the master copy of the minutes should be bound and passed on to your successor. There is usually, like in our case, the minutes are in the Google Drive as well, but it is nice to just print them out, paste it in a spiral notebook, and pass it to your successor. It allows them to feel like, oh, I have a tangible item in my hand here. And it gives them time where they can kind of peruse and just review the minutes and maybe feel a little more empowered taking on that role that you were so successful at. Um, Distributing the minutes. So keep in mind that PTA minutes are produced only for the members and they are not for public distribution. Every year, I probably get maybe 5 or so units that want to post the minutes on the board or on their website, and they're just not intended for public distribution. Uh, People who take the time to go to the meetings know they'll hear the minutes there. So because they're not intended for public distribution, we ask that you don't post them on websites, social media, in their newsletter. You can always say, "Hey, at the PTA meeting, we approved having our fall festival on this date, and you know, watch for updates." You can say things like that, but the minutes themselves not intended for public distribution. And that is the end of the presentation. However, let me do this. Do you guys have questions? It's so funny, I can't get this off. Ta-da! Meg?
Excellent, excellent, excellent information. And so the forms, templates, we presume that everybody here has been passed on some system or process of record keeping. But if you find that you are starting from scratch or you have any questions whatsoever, you can always reach out to Linda.
Absolutely.
Um, I don't know if you want to, Megan, we would love to answer your question if we can. Go ahead.
Hi guys. My question is, there's these new AI services, right? That for taking notes. I don't know if that is an approved, I don't believe it's in our bylaws or anything, but I've noticed we started using it at work on some of our meetings. I guess it would just be for accuracy and making sure everything's there, but it's like a recording of the whole meeting and takes it for you and puts the action items and there's a few different services. I just wondered if that was something we could use.
So AI, I use it all the time at work. Copilot AI, we use it all the time.
Yes, yeah.
However, I will tell you from experience, it doesn't hurt. You can use it, but don't use it as a substitute because many times in my own experience, it changes things around and it changes it enough where it changes the whole action way it goes because it's looking for the most concise way that you've already done. But as far as I honestly I don't think there's a rule. Denise, correct me if I'm wrong as far as using that, but I would say you don't really need AI if all you're doing is exactly what you're hearing and just the action items. If it's a presentation or something you're trying to do, AI is fine. You can try it after you've I mean, as long as you're keeping really good notes, but you'll see what I mean because it tends to take what we even the verbiage, even the conversation, and it will change things around. And I don't know if it's because the last words it hears, but the purpose of the minutes is very specifically the exact order and action that was taken and who took the action, and then the results of that action. But I
Yeah.
don't
And
I don't want to say never, but I'm just saying I have in my experience it tends to convolute things just a little bit.
yeah, and I
Or
think that from what I have not heard that there's any state guidance as far as limitations, but I think Linda, what you pointed out was super important, which it should be used as a support tool, right? Um,
Yeah.
Not exclusively for note taking or minute taking. It's not the governance document that you can rely on that you'd want to present for a vote. You want to use it as maybe a backup to, your handwritten notes. And it depends on, I think we all have our own preferred style. I'm a got to put pen to paper type of person, but also would benefit from another source of information that might capture things if you feel that's beneficial. But what you would want to do is make sure that that is something that your board is okay with. So you'd probably want to take action and maybe even consider putting it in your standing rules because it is a tool that everyone should be aware of that is capturing everyone's,
yes.
you know what I mean? So I think that putting that on the table and being honorable as far as what that represents and making sure everybody approves of it. And so it's a good exercise as a team to talk about it right from the get-go. That's something you guys could talk about, whether you're a new leadership team coming into it as team members. I think that would be a great thing to mention.
For
We
sure.
don't,
Thank you. Yeah, we actually had somebody fill in for our secretary one time this year. I mean, there's most of us on there have been around for a while, but I think it's one question that's going to come up this year with our those that are coming on to the new role. But we did have it done one time, and we had a lot of corrections we had to do during that meeting. So I totally see what you mean. I just wanted to see if there was something that prohibited it, just because I know that meeting's gonna or they're gonna ask us, about doing that. But I'll
You
I'll
know,
get
a
yeah,
that
a good
guidance
response, Megan, for that would be my analogy would be because the secretary's role is so specific of what you have to present in the minutes. It's kind of like AI is more of a softener, right? Like they'll take it'll take what I mean. Obviously, it depends. You want whatever you're requesting, but I I would just say help people understand that, and whatever role they're doing, it might be okay, but it certainly not. I would not say in treasury or secretary, just because of the very specifics. You mentioned that corrections, that is a big thing. But
yeah,
the most important thing is listening to what people are talking about. I wouldn't dismiss it right off the bat. You just be like, oh well, you know what? Let's see what that looks like. And if somebody says, hey, I want to try it on this, and if you have a new secretary coming in and they want to try it, I would just emphasize exactly what I just did. It has to be very, very exact of the actions and how they took place. And once they see that with AI, they'll realize, well, maybe this isn't the best tool for that. But
yeah.
if it
And
brings conversation, it's all good.
yeah. And in the chat, just want to highlight that Heather mentioned that California, as an all-party consent state, you are legally required to notify and get approval from every participant. So this would be action that you would want to take with your board to make sure that you are getting consent from everyone. So thank you, Heather, for sharing that. And Zakia, you have your hand raised. Be happy to.
Yes. I do have a question. Everybody froze. Oh my gosh. Is it me?
It might be you.
Oh, I
We can
think
hear
it's
you.
Denise. I think it's Denise. Okay. I can hear you. Yes. Okay. So I actually have two questions. My first question is we just had a meeting and our secretary was missing.
And we have
So
to.
I volunteered to take
Oh,
notes. I'm the treasurer,
Yay!
right? Yay, fun. Okay. So my question is, there were some heated arguments like back and forth about one of the VP was accusing people like board members and uh like just saying that they're not coming, like they're not committing to anything, like they need to volunteer. And I ended up saying, it is a volunteer position. We cannot force anybody to come here. It's on their time. So that was a very heated argument. And I know you said that just state what was said, right? Um, is it okay for me to state that there was a discussion about that? Because
That's a great question. So the leadership really should, and anybody who feels comfortable should have maybe tried to table that when it becomes heated. But yes, you can put, and the most important thing is to word it where you are specific about what kind of happened, but you don't have to use names. Or I would, I personally, and you can use any version of it, would have put something like there was discussion on members not attending or committing to events or whatever it may be. I'm just throwing a few AI words in there. There was some discussion on members not committing uh, that we, you know, will visit later. Or and at that, honestly, was it a membership meeting, an association meeting, or was that an executive board meeting?
it was an association meeting.
So that is so important not to necessarily uh,
Yeah, I
push
mean, I
that
don't get
out
it. Yes,
in
we need to.
public. So
Yeah, yeah. We just started our PTA. We have not had any board meetings. We've just moved into having association meetings, which is kind of interesting because I feel like we need to have a board meeting to discuss what we're going to discuss in the public, because we don't want to go there and the treasurer and the VP start arguing about people volunteering their time. Like, sometimes I get it. People cannot make time, things happen, like it's life, right? But so it was a very heated argument, and I was one of the people. I kept on reminding, it's a volunteer thing, it's a volunteer thing, like. And then I was just like, if we had the board meeting, like, I'm thinking in the back of my head, we would have had this discussion there where you would have aired out all your anger and frustration towards me in there and not in front of these people. But I mean, it was just like, but I do think that as the executive board, we shouldn't be, we would like to expect, people to commit time and stuff, but really, if they don't, there's nothing we can do about it. It's a volunteer, thing. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's just recorded that, but I don't, I was not going to put the name like, ABC said that, Z said this, and all that stuff. I just wanted to say is like, how do I put it nicely? Like, there was a discussion about commitment and lack of it of members, and
perfect.
that's it.
That's perfect. And now, as the secretary, or as the pro tem, right, as the sit-in
Yes.
secretary, I would suggest encouraging your board to, I mean, I'm assuming you have them in your bylaws or your standing rules, but if not, it would certainly warrant your executive board to get together and have a discussion on, what, instead of, like, what can you do to encourage commitment and participation? And by the way, www.capta.org has some great resources on that. But definitely saying, it's so important that things like that are not discussed at an association meeting. We understand the frustration. It is very hard to find volunteers. We know that. But if you have members there that are at your meeting and they hear the executive board talking about the people who are not committing, boy, that's a big turnoff to me. If I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I mean, I am pretty busy, and I just that's you. I mean, I don't know if you would necessarily want to open up that. I mean, hopefully everybody is mature enough to, uh, you know, acknowledge that that needs to be talked about. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it should be more of what can we do to encourage it? What can we do as the leaders of this unit, as the leaders on the school site to promote uh, volunteering and coming to the meetings and just trying to stay positive. So,
Yeah.
but yes, to answer your question, perfect. As long as I do that for a little more of a memory thing, like, whoa, yeah, in May, remember we had that discussion on, people not committing. Uh, Really, it should have been stated right then and there that, oh, it could be brought up at another meeting, but it didn't have to be. You just put it in there, and I just call that kind of a memory placeholder, so you
Okay.
remember that it happened.
Okay. Okay. So that was my number one question. My number two question is, we have the secretary who has been missing in action since we got the PTA going. So, what is the easiest way to, because we still have like the almost half the year, right? Even more before we vote and stuff. And sadly, I don't think I'm going to be able to, sit in for the secretary all the time. So how do we fill that position? Like, I read the bylaws. I understand that we have to have board meetings and discuss it there and move along, right?
So, do you have maybe it, it, I mean, it sounds like you said you don't have very many executive board meetings.
Zero.
Is Could you send out a message maybe to the board members that you do have, saying, acknowledging like, hey, our secretary's not able to come for the next whatever 3 meetings. Can we get some volunteers to take the minutes? And you can either download or reach out to me, and I can give you a quick page
Okay.
of meeting details. I mean, really, if you give whoever's going to do it either the job description or just even the meeting details, name, date, start time, end time, attendance list, and the officer presiding, and what business action took place, just to
Mhm.
help
Yeah.
guide them, I, I think that would be fine, and it would give maybe other people an opportunity to fill the role. And even members, honestly, if you have a few, like, we all have a few members that are our friends that maybe are not on the board but might step up to do the minutes for one time. And if you can have
Mhm.
maybe a peer, right, to help with the minutes, and even you, Zaki, make like, hey, I'll help you at the end of the meeting. I'll look over the minutes real quick, and all you have to do is make sure you get the action items, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
worst case scenario, they can be corrected. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So we had it's been a very funky mashup with us. The other members are like part of different other, they're part of other teams and stuff, and I get it, life, um, so we just got the minutes of the last two meetings that happened in April and I think in May. No, uh, Feb and April, and it had corrections and everything. And I was like, oh, aren't we supposed to like review it before you post it? And it has like misspelling of my name and stuff. I'm like, okay, I will bring it up to the next meeting and just say, and then in the future, before we send it out, let other people just check it for you. I mean, nobody's trying to be better than you. We're just trying to make sure that we help each other out. But I mean, I'm not a very very favorite person right now. I missed two meetings. So I mean, I feel like our board, we need to meet more before we go to this meeting, with the other members, other active members. It's just crazy. But yeah, anyways.
Tell me
So,
this, I'm so sorry, just to interrupt. When you said you send out the minutes, what does that mean?
oh, so the last two meetings that I had, the president took the notes. So she was the sitting secretary, and then she just updated the notes and she emailed it to all the members.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that you do not have to do that. Um, so I would recommend having the president appoint 2 or 3 readers of the minutes. We do that in our association meetings. So it can be a board member, it can be a regular member, just get 3 volunteers, and whoever is taking the minutes, you would get their names, you would get the volunteers, have the president or leader, whoever's running the meeting, appoint the 3 readers and approvers of the minutes,
Hmm.
request that those minutes be sent to only those 3 people and the president, and uh, within 2 weeks of the meeting, and then they read it and they'll send it back to the um, person who took the minutes, the secretary pro tem, and then that person can make the corrections, and then you would vote on it at the meeting. I would not send them out to all of the members.
Okay.
I mean, it's not against the rules, but it's a lot of eyes that are, and if you make an error, it might make a person who's stepping up to the role or doing pro tem or whatever feel uncomfortable. So if the person taking the minutes just sends them to the 3 appointed people, and then those 3 people, usually they'll say, "Hey, you know what, you misspelled my name," or "I thought you said it, I thought I heard whatever, that the balance in the treasurer's account is this." Usually it's just a typo,
Hmm.
and help the secretary know that is common. We make typos all the time. I've not only misspelled names, I've used a wrong tense, and I am a spaz over grammar. But it just, you try to be as thorough as you can, but sometimes it doesn't get caught with your auto spell check or grammar check. But that might eliminate some of that um, fear of doing something wrong with the
Hmm.
minutes.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. So yeah, so removing this secretary, right? Are we able to remove her based on not coming to the meetings, like 3 regular meetings versus board meetings? Because I know that there's like a little difference, right, between those, and not giving us any reason or anything why she's not coming.
So that should be in your
Bylaws?
bylaws. But tell me this:
Yeah.
removing somebody is a big deal. I'm not going to
Yes,
lie.
it
I've been
is.
around for a long time, and if has anybody reached out and said, "Hey, what's going on? Is there anything we
Yes.
can help with?" And I say that with genuine concern,
Yeah.
because many times we get caught up with, She's not here again. Oh my gosh," and oh, and maybe somebody said she's on vacation, or maybe somebody said they're, whatever. Has somebody actually reached out and said, "Man, we miss you. It's rough getting good minute takers. Would you think you'll be back?" Has anybody done that you know of?
No, but I mean, I can shoot her a message and get that going, because like for me, I don't know this person. I've really never. I don't even remember her face. I only saw her one time in the very first meeting, and I felt like she was pressured to take this position. And I feel like we need to stop doing that. Like if we can get it, like we can motivate people and tell them we'll help you, we'll guide you, we're
Yeah.
here with you and stuff like that. But I felt like, so, and I was new at the school, so I was like, I don't want to rock any boats, right? So I didn't say anything.
Well, since you were just secretary, it might be a great segue for you to reach out to her and say, "Hey, I just took minutes and I'm not sure if I did it right. just checking. I haven't really met you, just briefly, and
Yeah.
I'm new, but gosh, do you do do you plan on coming back soon? Could you give me some tips?
Okay, I
Open
can do.
that door maybe, and then say, hey, is everything okay? And
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
I'm
That's
the
a tough
only
one.
one who's against removing her because I read the bylaws and I was like, dude, we don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. Like, I mean, I feel like it's a lot of work. But yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah, fun. Thank you. Sorry it took so much of your time.
No worries at all. No, were good questions. But to remove somebody just because they've missed some meetings, I always find that
And
alarming. I'm not going to lie. I just, even especially when you have all new people, or if there's three people that know each other, three people that know each other, and then, four people that don't, you don't have a secretary and nobody has stepped up. So it is well worth the effort
Mhm.
for the board to get together and say, hey, let's check on her. You know, let's find out what's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like we have 5 people on the board, I think. Yeah, and so when they send messages, they always exclude her. I'm the only one who includes her. I'm like, even if she's not coming, that is not our way of dealing with people. Because sometimes I get it, like because I missed 2 meetings and I had reasons and I told that to the board, but clearly nobody cared enough and they were just like really upset with me. And I was like, but these are open meetings, right? And I was like, okay, whatever happened. But yeah, so like, yeah, I will reach out to her and try to get that, thing going where I'll be like, we're all learning together here. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate you, Linda.
Sure. Any other questions? I know we're running out of time here. You guys have been amazing. Great questions, though. I think they really benefit everybody. Even though you haven't experienced that yet, you might. So maybe that'll come up in any. And it works really well to have, a sounding board. Find somebody. It helps making the PTA system work. And really
yeah,
being respectful. Set that tone.
and certainly reach out to us, any of us, if you have any questions whatsoever. That's what third district is here for. Uh, Linda is always here if you have questions with regard to the record keeping. But the resources that she's pointed to, I mean, truly, capta.org and the search box at the top right corner, dropping any phrase or word usually will get you to a spot. And then if you continue to need clarification, we are here for that. So anytime, and navigating some of those challenges as far as what you're sharing, Zakia, we can certainly talk about that too. So thanks everybody so much for
Yeah.
joining us. And if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and stop
Appreciate
the
your time.
recording. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. This was
Thank
great.
you.